I recently visited the Eurotech motorcycle dealership here in Oklahoma City, and I saw there a BMW S1000RR. It's the first time I'd seen one in person. It's a beautiful bike. It makes 210 horsepower, and it costs $26,000. And since then, I've been wondering, why does anyone need a 200 horsepower motorcycle? Yes, I understand some people are still in their Top Gun phase.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
And some people like to go on track days. But other than on track, can you really use a 200 horsepower motorcycle for the full benefit? Sure, I see sport bikes flying down the highway at really fast speeds, probably too fast for all that traffic around them. But even so, those bikes are probably not going faster than 85 miles an hour. Do you need 200 horsepower to do that? If you are reasonably law-abiding, then you should only be doing highway speeds of 70 or 75 miles per hour. In some places, the speed limit is 80 miles per hour. Can you do those speeds without a 200 horsepower bike? Of course you can, and you always could. So, does anyone really need a 200 horsepower motorcycle? Let's get into that. My YouTube handle here is Professor Bob W., and that's not for nothing. I am a law professor, and I teach law at 3 different law schools. And as a professor, I love a PowerPoint. So, I prepared one for this video. Let's take a look. So let's talk about motorcycles and horsepower, past and present. Starting with famous historical tours in the 1960s and 1980s. One of the most famous, 1968, Robert Pirsig, the author of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, took a 5,700-mile round trip from Minneapolis, Minnesota to San Francisco, California, with his son riding pillion. And what was the motorcycle that he rode on that long trip? It was a 1966 Honda Superhawk, just 28 horsepower and 17 pound-feet of torque. Not exactly a monster motorcycle, but it worked perfectly fine for that whole trip. Then in 1973, another famous author, Ted Simon, who wrote Jupiter's Travels, took his motorcycle around the world, and that motorcycle was a Triumph Tiger 100, 40 horsepower, 25 pound-feet of torque. Again, a modest amount of horsepower, but perfectly adequate for the trip. Then in 1982, Elspeth Beard, who wrote the book Lone Rider, she was the first British woman to ride a motorcycle around the world. And she rode that on a 1974 BMW R66, which also had 40 horsepower, but a bit more torque than Ted Simon's Triumph Tiger 100. She had 36 pound-feet of torque. But it, of course, was a bigger bike, a heavier bike, that BMW. Again, perfectly adequate, 40 horsepower, took her all the way around the world. More recently, we had the third in the Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman trips. This one, Long Way Home. It just came out in 2025. And what bikes did they ride? They were riding around all the way through Europe on classic bikes. Ewan McGregor's motorcycle was a Moto Guzzi Eldorado, 96 horsepower, 89 pound-feet of torque, quite a lot of torque. Charlie Boorman was riding a 1973 BMW R75-5, just 50 horsepower and 44 pound-feet of torque. But those two bikes took them all around Europe for about a month and a half, I think. So what about modern mid-capacity motorcycles? What are we talking about in terms of horsepower? Well, Royal Enfield, of course, one of the leaders in that field, has a whole line of modest horsepower motorcycles. The classic 350, Meteor 350, Bullet 350, Goen 350, and Hunter 350 all have just over 20 horsepower. The original Himalayan 411 and its companion, the Scram 411, had 24 horsepower. Then they went up to the Himalayan 450 and then later, of course, added the Gorilla 450 using the same engine. Those have 39.5 horsepower. The 650 line, Interceptor 650, or in the US it's the INT 650, the Continental GT 650, the Super Meteor, all have 47 horsepower. The Classic 650 and Shotgun 650, a little less than that, 46.4. And the Bear 650, a little more, 47.4 horsepower. And then we have the Moto Guzzi line, including my motorcycle, the Moto Guzzi V7 850, which sports 67.3 horsepower. The older models, before the 850 engine came out, only had 52 horsepower. The Moto Guzzi V85 TT, the adventure bike, has 80 horsepower, and both the V100 Mandello and the Stelvio have shot up to 115 horsepower. What about Triumph? Triumph has the Speed 400 and Scrambler 400X. Those are sporting similar capacity to the Royal Enfield 650 line. They have 39.5 horsepower. The Thruxton 400 and Tracker 400, a little bit more, 41.4 horsepower. Then we can look at the Bonneville line. Of course, there are two sets. There's the 900cc models, which includes the T100, the Speed Twin 900, and the Scrambler 900. Those have 64 horsepower. Then we've got the Bonneville 1200 models, which include the T120, the Bobber, the Speedmaster, and the Speed Twin. Those range from just about 79 horsepower up to 103 horsepower. And then the Trident 660 has 95 horsepower. That's for current models of the Trident 660. But other manufacturers have come out recently with lower capacity motorcycles, notably Honda with its GB350, only 21 horsepower. Even Harley-Davidson is not that crazy. Various models range from 87 to 115 horsepower, and Indian, again, various models running from 74 horsepower up to 126 horsepower. Well, you ask, what about sport bikes? Don't they have a lot more horsepower? No, not so much, not in the mid-range. The Honda CBR 600R, just 94 horsepower. The Triumph Daytona 660, 95. The Yamaha R7, only 73 horsepower. The Kawasaki Ninja 650, only 67 horsepower, same as my Moto Guzzi. The Aprilia RS 660, 105 horsepower. The Ducati Supersport 950 jumps up to 110 horsepower. And then we've got the current leader, the Suzuki GSX R750 has 148 horsepower, but the GSX 8R only has 82 horsepower. So again, none of those are even near the range of a 200 horsepower superbike. And the great thing about the Royal Enfields, the Triumphs, and the Moto Guzzis is that you can buy those motorcycles relatively cheaply for prices ranging from about $4,500 for the lower-end Royal Enfields up to about $18,000 for the higher-level Triumphs. Even the entry-level Harley Nightster is only $10,000. The Sportster costs about $16,000, and the Indian Scout is $17,000. Those are all far below the cost of the BMW S1000RR, which was $26,000, and of course other 200-plus horsepower bikes. You want to go fast? That works. Even the mid-size sport bikes are not crazy money. The Triumph Daytona 660, Kawasaki Ninja 650, Yamaha R7, and Suzuki GSX 8R are all under $10,000. The Honda CBR 600R and the Aprilia RS 660, both about $12,000. And the Suzuki GSX R750 is only $14,000. Even the Ducati Supersport 950 can be had for about $16,000. And what do most of us use our motorcycles for anyway? City riding, commuting, weekend bopping around the countryside, maybe some canyon carving if you live in the right part of the country, or touring. Even folks who ride adventure bikes are generally using them for those same things, not actually world touring or even going off-road too much. A motorcycle with a horsepower range from 40 to 100 or so
is more than capable of doing all those things with plenty of power left over. For example, on my Moto Guzzi V7, I can be doing highway speeds of 75 miles per hour in 6th gear and only showing 4,100 RPMs. So I still have plenty of roll-on power for passing, and that's on a bike of 67 horsepower. I not only don't need a 200 horsepower machine, I don't want one. I want to enjoy riding my motorcycle, not constantly fighting with it to keep myself from blasting out license-losing speeds. I think there are 3 very good reasons why no one needs a 200 horsepower motorcycle and why 99% of us are satisfied with much lower capacity machines. Number 1, cost. Most people don't use their motorcycle as their only transportation. Besides my Moto Guzzi, I have 2 cars in my family. My motorcycle is my fun vehicle, and I think that's true of most motorcyclists, at least in the US and also in Europe to a large extent. Of course, in Asia and India, small bikes and scooters are indeed daily transportation, but not so much here. So for a recreational vehicle, does it make sense to spend as much as you would on a car? Sure, if you have a fat wallet, price may be no object. But maybe people have begun seeing that spending $25,000 and up on a motorcycle which they ride maybe 3,500 miles a year isn't that great an investment. Number 2, usability. Riders want to get the most out of their bikes. We all know the saying, it's more fun to ride a slow bike fast than a fast bike slow. If you have a motorcycle in the 40 to 100 horsepower range, you can really use that bike, get the most out of it, and still not be risking a huge speeding ticket. If your bike is a 200 horsepower beast, and your last name isn't Marquez or Rossi, you're probably not going to be getting anywhere near the total use of that machine, even on track, much less on the road. For the average human, a 40 to 100 horsepower bike is more than enough to have fun, get some thrills, and put a grin on our faces. Can I get all the enjoyment, relaxation, and satisfaction that I want from a mid-size bike? Yes, and much better than I could from a 200 horsepower monster. Number 3, one bike to rule them all. Most of us, myself included, don't have room in our garages for more than one motorcycle. Would I like to have more than one? Yes, there are several I think about. Would I use more than one? Well, no, I can only ride one at a time. And when I consider cost of purchase, cost of insurance, license tags, and maintenance, I come to my senses. What I really want is the Fellowship of the Rings motorcycle. One bike to rule them all. One motorcycle that I can use for everything. Commuting, touring, weekend bopping around, a little corner carving maybe. So I have my Moto Guzzi V7, which does all that. I can even take it on light gravel or dirt roads quite successfully. Can I do all that with a BMW S1000RR? No, I don't think so. So there you have it. I have conclusively proven that nobody needs a 200 horsepower motorcycle, right? What? You're not totally convinced? Well, tell me about it in the comments. And tell me what kind of bike you have and how you use it. Do you have a small, mid-size, big capacity motorcycle or race rep all the way? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe.